Hey, what's up everyone? So in this video, I will be showing you how I recreated my portfolio website using HTML and CSS. So I tried to make it minimalist but also complete and cool with some animations. So this is my portfolio website here, and as you can see, we have a custom cursor which of course changes on hover, which is cool. We also have a custom scroll bar at the side here, and right here you'll see that our main title here, or our main text here, has a cool gradient like that, and you'll see we have some animations here showing some technologies that I offer or that I know. And then this illustration here is also animated. If you see closely, it's rotating. If I happen to refresh this page, you'll see that it has some cool animations as well. Just like that, they are animating one by one. And when I scroll to the next section, we will see my projects and courses, which are also animated. And you'll see that this is cut halfway, and the reason is because here we have a very cool feature. It's scrolling horizontally even though I'm scrolling downwards. So if you see this one, it's scrolling down, but you'll see we can preview the projects horizontally like this, which is cool in cards. So mine here are mainly courses and projects that I have done. So you'll see we have a link to course and also a link to code. For you, you can have a link to the live website or something, which is cool. Now, if I get to the end here, you'll see that we will continue scrolling downwards, just like that. Then we'll get to an about section. So I'll show a card, which I'm calling a profile here. And then I'll have like a tagline. I code and create the content on YouTube. Then I'll have some of my fields here in form of tags: web developer, freelancer, content creator. Then I have some stats. These are YouTube stats. You can include any stats if you have awards and so on. If you have created, I don't know, maybe 100 websites for customers and gain maybe 10 awards, you can, press them here, or you can get creative of what you can include. Then you have some social links and any other link that you might want to include. Then right here we have a wave. This is animated, and a short description about me. Now if I scroll to the next section, you'll see this is the experience and education section. We'll create a timeline just like this one, and by the way, this section is also animated. So if I scroll way up and come back, you'll see everything is animated there. The same as about. If I scroll back to about, you'll see it's also animated as I scroll. Now we have the next part here, which is work interest and what I can offer. So here I describe in which environment I like to work with. If I'm not freelancing and I'm being employed full-time, I would like to work in a team which encourages personal development, and also we have like collaboration, and a company that uses like modern technologies, because that's what I know, like React, Node.js, TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, and all that fun stuff. Another cool thing is that we have what I can offer. Basically, these are like services. I have included them in some cool effects here. So if I continue scrolling, you'll see that this is coming from this side here, from the left, and you'll see this is web development. And if I continue scrolling, you'll see another one coming from the top, so design to HTML. If I continue scrolling down, another one pops from this side, which is training. And if I continue, the last one is coming from the bottom, which is promotion. Now if I continue scrolling, now we are done with this section, so we go to the next one. So this is technologies, and you can see technologies are also nicely animated. So you can say technologies or skills that you have. So here I have included maybe not all of them, but the main ones. So we have React, Node.js, JavaScript, CSS, Next.js, TypeScript, Tailwind, Figma, GitHub, and Git. Now lastly, we have a contact section. Again, I wanted it to be minimal, so I didn't include a form here. I just included an email. And lastly, we have like a footer nav here, so that if I want to go back to about, can get back there, experience, or a resume here, which is really cool. So all this is made using HTML and CSS, and for the animations, we will be using a JavaScript library called GSAP, which is not hard to use, so I'll guide you all through. I also made it to be mobile responsive, so if I inspect and go here, click on this right here to switch between this mode and mobile mode. Then right here you can select a device of your choice. I have selected iPhone 12 Pro for demonstration only, and you can see the nav bar fits. So I didn't create like the side nav and so on. Again, I was trying to create a minimalist developer portfolio without a lot of stuff. Then we have some text there. We have the animation here. If I scroll down, we have the projects, all featured courses, and again here we are scrolling sideways. But what I made sure is that each card fits nicely on the screen, and we can scroll through all the cards. When I get the end, continue scrolling down. Now we can see the profile, the description down here. Then you have education and experience. Then we have work interest and what I can offer. Then you have the same effect that we had on desktop, which is cool. And then technologies, and finally get in touch. So on mobile, it looks really nice as well. So this is cool. So if you want to see the portfolio live, you can visit this link, okay, chaoo-charles-portfolio.vercel.app. I'll also show you how you can deploy your portfolio on Vercel, like I have done this one, which is awesome. Now again, my previous portfolio was really awesome as well. So you can as well check it out if you haven't seen it. It is available at chaoo-charles.dev. And if I happen to update this portfolio to the new one here, I'll leave a link to this current one at the description section below, okay? And this one was pretty cool. I created it using Next.js and React, and you can check out the tutorial on my YouTube channel. It's right here. I'll also leave a link at the description section below. So we have this part 1 and also part 2. It was premium, but I made it free, okay? So go check it out if you are interested, that is, if you see that this is cooler. So these had links here. Then we had this nav, which when I start scrolling down was like hiding. And this is in React, okay? Also, if you want me to convert this one into Next.js and React, let me know at the comment section below. Cool. So let me briefly show you this one. About section was like this. Then we had this project section with some cool tags and some hover effects, then some links, and down here we had services just like that. Then we had contact. So this was also minimal, which is really awesome. So in case you need the source code or source code, I now include them on my Patreon account, so you can join this tier. It's just $3 per month, and you'll get exclusive access to all my YouTube source codes. So that includes all the other video source codes, okay? So you'll see some of them here, including the complete chat app source code right here, including e-commerce source code, and the previous portfolio source code. So I'll also include this portfolio source code on my Patreon, and I'll leave a link at the description section below. So this is one of the best way that you can support my content, because my channel is still young and I don't earn much with YouTube. So you can support me through Patreon, and in return you'll get access to all the source code, and I'll also give your private messages a high priority. And in case you want to interact with my community or this channel's community, you can join the Discord channel, and I'll leave a link at the description section below for your invite. And you can see there are over 300 individuals. So here I have divided the Discord channel into different channels. We have front-end, back-end, vanilla.js. You can suggest videos, you can include some coding memes, coding setups, you can showcase your projects, and right here you can interact with others, ask questions, maybe gain experience. If you have job opportunities, share with them, and so on. Okay, I might not be always be there, but when I am, I try to answer some questions as well. So join Discord. I'll leave a link at the description section below. So in case you're new here, my name is Charles and I create coding content here on YouTube. Now that sounds awesome, so make sure you subscribe and turn on post notification so that you don't miss any of my videos. Okay, now let us start working on our code. And right here I have a folder called HTML, CSS, GSAP. Inside this folder we have this other folder called assets. So this assets has some images, some are for the project stroke courses. This is for about. Then we have logo. Here we have the tech logos, and yeah. So I'll leave a link at the description section below in case you want to use some of these images. But you can definitely download your own, like the tech logos. You must have your own image. You can create your own, thumbnails for projects. But anyway, I'll leave a link at the description section below. It will be free, so I'll leave a link called assets link. Now the next thing is to open this folder on Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is my preferred code editor. You can use a different one if you don't like Visual Studio Code for some reason. So right here, I'll use CMD to open this path on command prompt on Windows. And then we usually have a command for working with Visual Studio Code called code space and a period or a full stop here. And when I hit enter, it will open this folder on Visual Studio Code, okay? And if this doesn't work for you, I think you need to do, maybe you need to have Visual Studio Code, of course, installed. I'm not sure if there are any specific settings, but for some reason, if it doesn't work, you can still come to file after opening Visual Studio Code from the maybe apps. Then you'll go to open folder here. Then you'll select whichever folder you want through this Explorer. Then you'll select it, okay? So you can use different ways to open the folder. Now from here at the root, I'll just add a new file called index.html. So the reason we use index.html is because the server, whenever we deploy or upload this website online, the server will look for this file as the beginning of our site. So it looks for index.html. Even if you have other HTML files like about page, contact page, and so on, you must have an index.html file, which is the root of your application. Now from here, I'll use control space, and it will give this HTML sample, which is a shorthand for generating this template to begin with. And then right here, you will need to include a title. For me, I'll say Chaoo Charles. Then I'll use stroke or a pipe there, and I will include a full stack developer. You can include front-end developer or back-end developer, whichever you want. And this is important for SEO, and also it is what people see whenever they look up for your website. So a good example is if I happen to look up for my website like Chaoo Charles here and search for this, you'll see we have this website, which is my website, and this is the title that we include. Okay, so you see Chaoo Charles, front-end web developer, so it need to be, you know, descriptive, which is awesome. Cool. Now let's go back here. The next thing, we have this link, which is linking to main.css file. Also we have this script tag, which is linking to main.js file. And I like to add an attribute here called differ, and this tells the browser to load the script after our HTML has loaded. So you can either do this or include the script tag just before closing the body tag. So let's create these files, main.css and main.js at the root. So right here, I'll say main.css and also I'll say main.js. Let's get started with the HTML, and therefore we'll go to the body. I like here to start with the main tag, and then I'll show you some emet shortcut. So right here, if I say dot and I say container and hit enter, this will create a main tag with a class of container, and here we can have more content. Now our hero section, we will simply use the section tag. So right here I can create the section tag, and for this section tag we will be having an ID of hero. So we can use this ID to navigate to different sections. Let me show you. So this is what we are working on. This is the website that we want to achieve. And if I happen to click on projects, pay close attention to this link. Right now it doesn't have anything at the end here, but if I click projects, you'll see now we have gone to the projects section, but also we have added here hash projects. So this is the ID of this section. So these IDs, we'll be using them for navigating to a certain section through a link, since it's a single page website. Then right here, after the ID, we have a class, and we will use hero here and also section. So for this section, we'll use it to add general styles for the sections. Then another thing is that I'll try to use the BEM model for CSS. I haven't been using it, but I think it's a good one to write CSS, which is more readable and also more organized. Okay, so this BEM is simply a way of naming your CSS classes. Okay, so I think this stands for block, element, modifier, I think so. So this right here, hero, is now like a block level class name, and then whichever class that we include in here, they will be child for this hero here. Okay, and if we have like some part of HTML which need to be modified, maybe changing the size of font or changing the color, then we will use this section now called modifier. So I think you'll get a hang of it the more we proceed. Also, I might not be perfect on it. I'm just getting started also. So try to use BEM as well. It's really good for writing cool CSS, okay, and readable one. So in here, we can start by adding a nav. So nav, and also this is like a block level element. So I'll just add a class of nav here, and we'll be able to target that class specifically. Let's add more here. We will have a logo, and I can include it in a div. This will simply be a text. So in case you want it to be an image, you can make it an image. So here I'll just say Chaoo Charles, like that. Then here I'll have a class name. Class. Okay, I'm saying class name because I'm used to React, but it's class. we can say nav. We start with this block name, and then here we include 2 underscores, and then we include now, you know, a word that specifies this element, which is logo. So I can say nav logo. So the good thing about this is that I'll select a class at a time, and I won't need to have nested classes. I would need to say something like nav.logo, or if we have so many nested stuff, I won't need to say nav. All those nesting, which is, I know it makes CSS hard. Now this will be more specific. I'll just say nav logo because I'll not have any other class like this in the entire page, which makes it awesome. Cool. So now here I'll have another div, and here we'll have the nav items. So I can just say nav 2 underscores items. So in some places I might mess up, I might forget, but you get the idea. I'm trying to use BEM here. Being cool. Okay, now here we'll have the nav items. So I can have dot nav underscore 2 underscores item, and then I'll duplicate these like 2 more times. I'm trying to have minimal links, not all of them, maybe the major ones here. So here I'll have projects, then here I will have about, then here I'll have contact, which is awesome. And yeah, now we can also, actually we should have included this in links, so I'll need to change here. I should have added an a tag, then I'll have hash projects. So this is the ID that will give to the projects section. So I'll cut this now, projects, and include it inside the link here. Then I'll do the same for these others. I think it's easier to just copy this and actually paste it and change this to about. I think it's easier for me that way. I just had messed up, you know, you will make mistakes, so I hope you understand. Cool. So if I save now and check, so to load this site, I'll be using an extension called a live server, and if you come here you can search for live server. I think recently VS Code has a built-in live server. I know it's there, but I'm not using it. I'm still sticking to this one. So live server, done. You can install it if you want to use the same, and you'll see here go live, and if it's successfully installed. Also, another cool extension that I'm using is something to do with tags, auto something. Let me see, these are my extensions here. Okay, it's called auto rename tag. It comes in handy whenever I want to rename a tag. For example, let's say I wanted this nav to be no longer a nav but to be a div. So if I start deleting, you'll see it's editing here and here. So it's auto renaming the end tag here. For some reason, it's working. So if I try to remove and edit, you can see I don't have to edit in 2 places. So that is really awesome one. Another cool one that I'm using is the prettier formatter. So prettier formats your code. Okay, so if your code doesn't look well, for example, if it's down here and I save, you'll see it's formatting it this way and it becomes more readable. So I won't go through the process of installing prettier because there are some configuration which you need to set up. So you need to check them on YouTube. Check them, search for on how to install prettier. Okay, let's just continue. So I'll open this with the live server. I will right click, then I'll see this open with the live server, and this will open on the default browser. Here it is. Now the cool thing about using live server is that whenever I make a change, I'll not need to refresh my page. So let's say I want to make a change to here. instead of Chaoo. Maybe I remove it and I happen to save. You'll see whenever I save, these will also change. So that is the cool thing about using the live server. I'll not have to keep refreshing. I'm saying all this for people who might not know about it. I know some of you know, and yeah, I'm sorry if this is too repetitive, but anyway, I want to consider everyone here. So now this is the HTML for the navbar. After this, now I'll be having a div with a class of content wrap. So for this one, this will be a general class name, and I'll be using this to wrap all our sections. So I just want to have some common styles inside this class. So inside this now, I'll have a div with the hero content. So here I'll say dot hero and then double underscore content. And for the hero content, we'll have this hero content here, and then we'll have an illustration. So this hero content will be for this side here. So we need to add another one here for illustration. So this content wrap will simply be adding a display of rects to display them side by side. So here I'll add another div and I'll give it a class of hero illustration. Hero illustration, just like that. So here we'll be having the image, but let's first come here at the hero content. So for hero content, we'll be having this title. This will be a H1, and it will simply say full stack developer bringing your digital ideas, all that. Okay, so but you can see this full stack here has a smaller text than this one, so we'll need to wrap this in a span. So first of all, let us add some class for the H1 here. I'll say hero underscore content double underscore title. Then I'll also add here title hyphen gradient. So for this title gradient, I'll need to use this class for all the headings that I want to have that gradient effect. Okay, so that is why I have this common class here, gradient. I think it's that way. Now lastly, I'll also have GSAP, then I'll include underscore content item. So for this one, we'll use it to animate our items one by one. So content item, just like that. Now if I save this will out of format, and we have these three classes here. Now I'll wrap this one with a span. So here I'll say span, then I'll say dot, and I'll include this hero, then double underscore content title, then finally I'll use this double hyphen and I will say small, and title is wrong here, title. Now this is now what we are calling a modifier. When we include this double hyphen then small, that is like a modifier in the BEM model. So whatever I'll do with that class is to only change the font size for this particular part. Okay, and we'll have a similar one for ideas, since we are adding this green color for ideas. So these ideas, I'll also wrap it in a span. So right here we'll say span, then we'll have ideas here, and we'll happen to remove this one, and here we'll have a class, and it will be hero content. Actually I can now like copy this one since I'm using it too much, and I will just say underscore, this will be title. So here I include accent, like that. Good. Now the next thing is this part here, that is a paragraph. So I'll just include a p tag and here we'll have several classes. So I'll say class, these will be hero content, and then I'll say paragraph, and I'll also add this class here, GSAP content item. So GSAP content then item, just like that. Then here I'll just copy these and paste in here. Cool, that is the paragraph. Then we'll have this link here for going to our resume. So here I can add a div, and in here I'll have a link going to hash resume, and here we'll have some class. This will be GSAP content item, content item. Actually thinking of it, I should have said GSAP hero item instead of content item. So allow me to change this. I can use Control D to select all of them and press the right arrow to go to the end. Then I'll change this to hero. Much better. I'll save. Cool. Now that is the hero content. The way we have organized this section is very important because of the layout. Okay, so now down here we'll have this hero illustration, and this will be an image, but this image will also have some text inside it. These ones here, React, Node.js. So we need to also have some tags for that. Okay, so right here I'll add a div with a class of hero, then we'll say illustration, hit enter. Actually let me copy this class because I know I'll type it several times. So right here, this section will be maybe for the text or the content, so I can say content right here. Then inside here we'll have several span tags for those texts. So I'll say span, then here we'll have class, and I'll paste hero illustration, and I'll include underscore text. And I hope I'm using them the right way. If you are more experienced, you can let me know if I'm doing the correct thing at the comment section below. But the fact that I'm trying to use it, it's really cool already. Now all this will have that class. So yeah, that's it. I have duplicated it, and all I need to change is this. You can say React, then here Node.js, then we can have here JavaScript, or you can include whichever technologies you are using, and CSS there. So that is it about this illustration content, and we need to have now the image assets stroke portfolio illustration.png, then add here hero illustration, and what else? I'll add some class. So class hero illustration image, so hero illustration img. And amazingly, we are done with the text or the markup, HTML markup for the hero section. Now if we preview this, you'll see we have all this. I want us to style this with CSS, and the first thing that we will do is to bring in some fonts from Google Fonts. So search for Google Fonts, and I'll be using two fonts. Let me first remove all of this so that I show you how we can select them. So once you are at Google Font, you can search for Alata. If you want to use the same font as me, that is. So I'll be using this for like headings, main text. So this is Alata here. and this one right here is pop-ins. So I'm using pop-ins for description sections. So using a trist to fonts, I think it's awesome. So I'll select this one. It's only this one available, regular. I'll go back to Google Fonts here and search for pop-ins. You can't go wrong with pop-ins. So if you are confused of a font, you can always go with pop-ins. I think it's cool one. I'll select extra light, then regular, then 500, then bold, and maybe extra bold. Then I'll go to this menu icon there, and I'll go to import, and I'll select whatever it's between the style tags and copy that. That is what I'll paste at the CSS. Then after that, right here, I'll select all the tags using a start, then all before and after pseudo elements. So I can use all after and all before. Then I'll style them here. The first thing that I want to do is to reset everything. So I'll remove the margins and the padding, and also I will set the box sizing. Then I'll set the general font family to be Alata. So this is how we can add it, Alata, and a fallback of sans serif. So this is used when Alata is not found. So I'll save that, and this is what we have to begin with. And when I check at the site now, you'll see the font have changed to Alata. Awesome. Now we can also do the general styles like custom cursor, custom scroll bar. Let us start with the cursor here. Okay, so I just need to come here and I'll select the HTML tag, and also I can select the body tag. So we can add a cursor as an image, which is so interesting. And I'll go to assets, then I'll go to circle fill SVG, and at the end here I'll use a comma and say auto and save. So you see it have changed to a circle cursor, which is an SVG here. So you can search for any kind of an icon that you can think of. So another thing that I can add is scroll behavior of smooth. Then also here I can add another style, but for this one we'll be using it on our next section here, this section here. So this section will have a class of horizontal, and as you can see we have this overflow. So we will be hiding overflow along the x-axis for HTML body, and also this section which will give it a class of horizontal. So we can add it right now, horizontal, as long as we know why we'll use it. And I'll just say overflow of X to be hidden. That's good now. So these are the styles that we have at the HTML and the body. Now also down here I can select the section, and for the section the first thing is that the cursor is not visible well because the color of the background is white, cursor is white. So we can change the section background color to a dark color. Okay, so I will add it as RGB, and this will be 8, then 7, then 11. So this is kind of bluish, not completely dark, but dark. Now you see we have that dark color, and our cursor is now visible, but the text is not visible. So we can add color here for our text, and we'll say RGB, and here will be 250. It's white but not completely white. 250 will do. I'll set the width to be 100% and the height to be 100%. So this is the section. If we check, this is our section here. So one last thing will prevent overflow along the y-axis for the sections. So overflow y will be hidden. Now we can style this title gradient. Let's add it here. And say dot title underscore gradient. Here, whatever we'll be doing is that we will be setting a background color for the text. WebKit text fill color. So this changes the color of our text here. And if I set this to transparent, and right here, let's also use a WebKit background clip and set it to text as well. Okay, nothing changes, but now whenever we set like a background color, it will be visible. So if I say background of red, oops. So I was wondering why nothing is changing, but it's because of this data gradient. So we need to change this class to be the same as the one that we are selecting at CSS. So if I save now, you'll see this is turning red. So actually, if I happen to comment out this and save, because we have this as transparent, we don't see it. And if I highlight, okay, it's there. If I comment out and save, it's there. So as you can see, we can use this now background to set the color of our text. The cool thing with the background property is that we can add a gradient to it. So it can be radio gradient. In this case, we will use linear gradient. Then here we'll say 90 degrees, and we can set the different colors. So I'll say RGB 255, 224, and then 234. And here I'll set a percentage up to which point it should like occupy. And then right here I'll add another one, RGB. Now this will be white, okay? And I'll set it to 255, 255, 255. And also we set it to up to a point where it should like occupy about 40% is good. And then down here we will finally set the last one, RGB, and for this one it will have a greenish tint. So you can select these colors depending on the theme that you want in your website. Here I'll set it to be up to about 90%, and if I hover on this, it has that greenish tint, and you can see the linear gradient has been applied at our text. We can set a custom scroll bar here. So just maybe after here, I'm using WebKit here for compatibility. So WebKit and then scroll bar, and here we can give it a width. So here I'll say width to be 10 px, and if I save, this will be width. You'll see this scroll bar is already too small, okay? Like we have changed its width, but now since we are starting creating a custom one, the default one has disappeared, and we can't see that ball for scrolling. So we need to select them and style them. So this white part, this area where we have that scroll, it's called the scroll bar track. So we can select it here. We will include WebKit again, and here we will say scroll bar, then here we will say track, and I think something is wrong here, so WebKit scroll bar track. And all we can do here is to change the background color for it, which is darkish bluish. So if I save that and check, you'll see now we have a dark scroll bar track. Now the other one is called the scroll bar thumb. So actually I can duplicate this, then this one now will be thumb. So thumb, and here we will make it to be whitish, the background color for this one, and also we can give it a nice border radius, and this will be about 30 px. Cool. Okay, if I save, we will see it. It's here. You see, we have it. Awesome. We have that track, and it's custom and small, and also taking the theme of our site. Also, we can add a hover effect to this thumb. So if I duplicate it down here, and we happen to add here hover, we can change the background. Also, I'll remove this border radius now and save. So if I hover here now, you'll see when I hover, it's changing the color. So you'll know it's above it if it changes the hover. So look, we have a custom cursor, we have a custom scroll bar, we have a gradient on our text. So I think we are making progress. Awesome. Entire of this hero section, we wrapped it with a container, this one here, called content wrap. We will target that. Now here, we will simply add a max width. So max width. So max width is important because of even very large screen. So we want it to also look nice on very large screen. Give it also a mean height of 100 VH. So we can see it, but if we set a background color of maybe aqua here, you'll see that section. Okay, and it actually has a maximum width up to this point. It's good for a large screen, like which I'm using. This is highly zoomed in because I'm on a big screen. If I happen to change resolution, you'll see the difference. If I set to the recommended one here, the text will be so small, so it's highly zoomed in for the video. And you can see now this is very big, and we would want the entire of this section to be at the center. So how we can do that is to add here a margin of outer will do the trick. So if I save that, now you'll see the content now it's at the center, which is good. We don't want to focus on very big screens, so therefore we just set a max width, and therefore we do everything in here. And even if you're on a large screen, the website will still look cool. And here is the example, the live one now. This is now on the bigger screen. You'll see that it still looks decent. Okay, so we have that section. Let me see what else we can add here. Padding of about 4 will do. And you see now all the content is in there. And another cool thing is that we need it to be side by side. This text and this illustration to be side by side. Therefore, what we need to do is to add a display of flex. So this is side by side, and we can align the items to center, and we justify content to be space between, and I save. Now I can remove this background since we know what we are working with. So we need to fix the size of this image. So here maybe I can add a section for hero. The styles that we added here at the top are for general styles for the site, the theme, the whatever, and for classes which we might reuse on other sections. Let me select the image first, hero, then double underscore illustration and underscore img, and we'll give this a width of 100%. Okay, much better. Okay, much better. Cool. And then we will include a gap between this text and this illustration by using our content wrap here. So here we can say a gap, and I'll say for and this will be creating a space between the two. We'll come back to this section, make it better, but for now I want us to style this navbar. Down here we will give it a width of 100%, so it will occupy like the entire screen. So if I give it a background color of, I don't know, red, you'll see the nav stretches all the way, but I want it to fit our page here the same as the hero. So I'll reuse some of these styles here, give it a max width same as this one. So I'll set the max width same as that. Now it's shorter up to this point, and also I'll give it padding similar to that. So I'll copy that and paste the padding here. So if I save, you'll see the padding now makes it very wide. So I don't want it to be very wide. So top and bottom I'll set to be 2 rem, but left and right to be 4 rem. And then for it to be at the center, we need to add a margin here of outer. So outer, and I save. Now look, it's at the center here together with this page, and we want these links to flow horizontally. So for that, for the layout, we will be using the flexbox. So down here we will add a display of flex and save. A justify of content to be space between. So you'll see now this logos here, but links are here. So we want links to be also to be horizontal, but we'll style them in a few. First of all, right here, let us also add an align of items of center, so that these will be the center of these. So this is position static. You can change it to position absolute, but I don't think it will change much. Actually, this one is positioned absolutely. The nav bar here, I used position absolute, which I think doesn't make the big difference. So we'll leave it at position to be static. So let's remove this background now that we have completed that. And now down here we can style our nav, then items. Okay, dot save, and now they are horizontal. To include gaps between them, we can simply use the gap property. So I can say let us have a gap here of 2 rem. Yeah, that is good. Awesome. Lastly, dot nav items, and then you select the a tag, and here we'll change the color to white. And what else? We can remove the text decoration. So here we will add the text decoration of none, and finally we can change the font size to be smaller, font size 0.8 rem. So that looks good, I think. Yeah, we have achieved a nav bar like this one. Only this that has more spacing at the top. So that is because I had like margin top for this. So margin top of I think 2 rem. It's not the same, but I think I won't mind it. It still looks good this way. Okay, so now let's go to this section and finish it. Okay, one last thing, maybe you can add a hover effect for the color here for the links. If you want, maybe change the color, you can just say hover and you change the color here to hash 79. This is the color I used. You can use a different one, and you can also like add border bottom for the underline, or maybe you can change the text decoration to underline. I'll use border bottom to be 2px solid. Then I'll use the same color of hash 79. If I hover, we get the color, and we have completed this navbar. We'll make this to be bigger or larger than this one. How we can do that is by using the flex properties. So let's select these classes. This one, we gave it a class of hero content. So we will select this class here. We'll select this, and also we need to select the other one. Let me show you. We need to select this hero illustration, and we can do it here. So to control the sizes of this, we can use the flex property, and if I set this to be 2 and this one to be flex of 1, that means that this will take twice as much spacing as this one. I want this hero content to occupy much space than this, but not twice, and therefore I'll take 1.5 of the space. I will target the title, so I'll say dot hero content, then double underscore title, and here we will change the font size to be very big, so about 2.5 rem will do. And I'll select the full stack here, full stack developer. We gave it hero content title, but we added a modifier of small, so that means that we must change the font size for this one to be smaller. So I'll set font size to be 1.7 rem. You'll see it's small, but not starting on a new line like this one. So to make it start on a new line, we can change it by adding a display to be block element. We can change the color here to be just white. So now this is completely white on a new line, and yeah, I think it looks good. We select the accent ideas here and give it a color that pops, and here we will add also the WebKit text fill, and here we will add a green color for our accent, and I'll say hash 79 and FFB1. If I save that, okay, it didn't change. Yeah, we used C, remove, and there we go, much better, looks good. I'll say dot hero content, then I'll say paragraph. We'll change margin top and bottom to be 1.2 rem and left and right to be 0. Then we'll change the color to be pale or darkish, so I'll say RGB, and we'll use this 18180 value. And then down here we will change the font width to be light, to be actually regular. So font width 400 is regular, I think, right? 400. But also we will be changing the font family, so font family will no longer be a letter for this, but it will be Poppins. So I'll say Poppins, and you can set a fallback of sans serif. If I save now, this is what we have. Pretty nice. Okay, we added this but forgot to add that this is resume. We'll add a class of hero, and this can be content. We'll add link, so we can target this class right here. After paragraph, let us select it, and I need to add a margin to the top. I just want it to look like it's separate from the rest of the content a bit, so I'll add a margin to the top of 1 rem to change the color to be the value that we had here. Maybe change the font size to 0.8 rem, which is smaller. Yeah, I'm happy with that. You can make it bigger, you can make it to look like a button, but remember, I was trying to just create a minimalist site. Awesome. Now this section already looks good, only animating them, but these will be in here. Let's style it. We had hero illustration with a flex of 1. We'll also add a position of relative, so position of relative, so that we position these absolutely to this. So down here, let us select those technologies. We'll add a position of absolute. If we check, it's still here. To center it, we can use these properties. We'll say top to be 50%. This is the old school of centering stuff. Left to be 50%. So if you check at this, it will not be at the dead center. It starts at the center, it starts at the top there. We need to use transform, then we'll say translate, then right here we'll say negative 50% and negative 50% for top and left. So if I check now, this is at the center, only like text align is not at the center. So we need to style them to be horizontal. Okay, not horizontal, to be vertical. We'll add a display of flex. So display of flex, if I save, they are horizontal, but we will change the flex direction to column. So flex direction to column. I hope you don't hear a lot of background noise, and I hope I'm audible enough. So you see now column, it's downward. Then you can align the items to the center, and look, this looks good. But we will be creating the scrolling upward effect. Okay, this particular part will give it a specific height, okay, of about that px, and then I'll add an overflow of hidden, so some of the text will be hidden, which is in there, and you will see only part of it. And also we'll change the font size for this section to be about 20 px. Now look, we are only seeing React, although the rest is there, but it's hidden. I will select the text itself and add margin top and bottom of 5 px, left and right of 0. So this creates more spacing between the texts. Okay, we will make it scroll using GSAP. So you just need to go to greensock.com or just Google GSAP, then yeah, you'll find it here. This is the first landing page or the first page. Go to docs. From docs, you'll need to click on getting started, and then down here you'll see we have this installation guide. Okay, So I can open this on a new tab, and we see how we can add GSAP in our portfolio website. We have several ways, and I think I'll be using this method here of CDN. So if I scroll down, you'll see we have this link that we can use, which is a CDN, which you can, the script tag which we can add to our website. Now we have some plugins, and we will be making use of one of them. We will be making use of this plugin called Scroll Trigger, so that we animate whenever we are also scrolling. So for example, if I scroll down here to this, you see they are animated. If I scroll down here, they are animating as we scroll. Even if we scroll top, we get the animation effect again. So we add the Scroll Trigger plugin, then just highlight all this, copy, then you will go to your website, to the HTML, and you'll add it just right here, okay, and save. Now once we do this, GSAP is now already added, and we can make use of it in our main.js. So let me show you how easy it is to animate something. Let's animate this illustration. So we select the class that is having that illustration, which is this hero illustration. So you can check for examples here. For example, here we are animating this box to x-axis 200 px, so which in CSS translates to transform translate x 200 px. So this is how we use it. So we can also animate from, we can animate to. So right here I can say GSAP dot from, and we select the class here, and here we can say let us animate from full colon 70. So we have selected that illustration using the class, then we have given it instruction, let's animate along the y-axis by 70 px. So if I save that and come here, let's refresh, you see it had that initial animation. You can add duration of how long it will take, duration of 3, so that is 3 seconds. So now if I refresh, it has that effect. You can add maybe 2, you can add some easing effect. You can say ease to be back, so it will go and come back here. So this is super cool. You can add delay, it's easy to use. You can add delay and maybe of 2 or 3. So when the page loads after 3 seconds, it's when it will animate. There we go. So I refresh, 1, 2, 3. You see, pretty easy to use. Okay, so we will be using GSAP to animate everything. Now we will be creating something we call timeline, so that they, they animate one after another. So for example, for this navbar, check how it animates on this site here. You see, if I refresh, it starts here, down here, down here, down here. So it animates in one by one. You can do this and add delays and work with durations, but you'll have to do a lot of calculations for that. Therefore, instead of that, we'll be working with GSAP timelines. Okay, so right here we'll start by registering the plugin. So we added this link for the plugin here, Scroll Trigger, and we can register it right here, just like this. We'll say GSAP, and then we'll say dot register plugin, and we include Scroll trigger, so that will be cool. We'll be able now to animate whenever we are scrolling, which is cool. Now down here, let us say hero section, and we'll create a timeline for our hero section. For each section, we'll be having a timeline. So here you can say const, then I'll say hero timeline, TL for timeline, will be equal to GSAP, then dot timeline. Then we invoke it and we will add some configuration here. And the configuration that we will add is the scroll trigger configuration here. For trigger, we need a section which will trigger the animation. So when we are in that section, or when we scroll to that section, we trigger the animation. So here the trigger will be our hero. So here I can use the ID to select our section, which is hero. You can use ID, you can use class. If it's a class, you use a dot. Then here, this is an object. You just need to add start. Then here we'll say top, and then here we'll say bottom. And then here we'll say toggle actions, and I'll be explaining them to you as we move on. We'll be using them a lot, so at the end of the day it will make sense. So here I'll say play, then I'll say none, then I'll say restart, then restart, then I'll say none. Okay, now we have created this timeline. It's not a must to use a scroll trigger. The scroll trigger only, it's for us to animate as we scroll. So for example, when I scroll back to this part, you'll see it's animating. So this restart here simply will restart the animation whenever we scroll back. So this is for scrolling back to this section. This play is when we scroll from the top, like when we get into this section. So we want the animation to play. This is when we are getting out of this section. Okay, when we are scrolling out of that section, this is when we are scrolling back to this section. This is when we are scrolling back out of this section. Okay, so I have this play for when we enter and when we get back. Then these are none. So if I come back to HTML and look at our nav bar, we had nav item, nav item, nav item. So I can give same class for each of them, even the logo, and I'll call it GSAP nav item. And I can copy this and use it for each of these items. So I'm adding this as an extra class here, GSAP, 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 just to specify it's for the animation. And maybe I can even remove this. It doesn't have to be the same. Just like that. So I can select this GSAP nav item and add some animations to it, but using this hero TL. So here I can say hero TL, and I'll say dot from, and I invoke it. I select the class here, dot GSAP nav item. Remember we changed this to this. Then here we'll be able to add some animations. So here I'll say Y. We animate from Y negative 30 px. Then we have an opacity here. So we'll be moving from opacity of 0 to 1. Then okay, I don't need to include this SPX. It will automatically know to include that. GSAP library will include the PX for us. Then here is back. Actually, this should be in a string. I save. Now this should animate. Let's see. And it's not animating. Interesting. Okay, we are missing one property here called stagger. So we must include stagger, and I can set it to be 0.1. Now if I save, this should work, I think. Refresh. Still not working. Okay, I missed the spelling here for trigger. I save. I don't know what's the issue, but we can check the console and see if we have any issues. And yeah, which we actually have. GSAP register. I missed the spelling here. So this is supposed to be register. I save now, and cool. Now I think we have the effect. So if I refresh, you see these links are animating. Awesome. So that is cool. We need to select the hero content. We had this one here, GSAP hero item. GSAP hero item. We just need to select that, and we just need to do something similar like this down here. So here I will change the class to GSAP hero item. Then we will animate y-axis, this one, and I'll just remove the ease and yeah, include the opacity. So only that is I'm removing, otherwise I should have, you can include everything at one timeline, but now they'll still follow each other. After this we will get to this. As you can see, it's super easy to animate. Now look, they are animating one by one like that, which is awesome. So maybe you can add the stagger to be about 2 if you want. Now here it takes a bit of more time to get there, which is cool. Also I can make this to be 30 instead of negative. Yeah, now this is what we had actually. They are coming from down, these are coming from top. Awesome. Now let's animate this one. Super easy. I just need to do a similar thing. Okay, I want to duplicate this. Alt Shift bottom arrow. Then here we will select the hero illustration. So here, and for this one, let y be 30, let opacity be 0, and for hero illustration I think it's the only one, so we don't have another class. That is, we only have one class for hero illustration, so we don't need to include stagger, so we remove it. Okay, so if I save, you see now it's animating one by one up to this point. Now we can animate the image itself. So down here we will animate the image img, and what we will do with the image is to rotate it. So we don't need y, we don't need opacity. So here we will say rotate, and I'll say 90 degrees. So if you want it to go 360, you can do the same, but I want it to go halfway then come back. So here I'll say repeat -1. That means that it will repeat. So let me save. Let's see, it's rotating and repeating itself. So during the repeat I want it to rotate back but not forward. So here we add another cool property called yo-yo. So true, so it will repeat by going back and forth. Let's see, you see, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Cool. Now all we need to do is to add a duration. duration, I want it to be just so smooth. So here duration can be about 15, 20 will be good. Now look, it's going, when it gets to about 90 degrees, it will start going back. Now it's going back. Awesome. Negative. Now the last thing, to scroll upward repeatedly. So we just need to repeat this, Alt Shift bottom arrow, and let's remove everything. Okay, so why for this will be, this was a try and error method for me to get this value of how far it should move along the y-axis, so that you see if it works. So it will move along the y-axis, then it will repeat. Okay, so if it reaches the ends, it will repeat. And also we give it some duration of about 10. We want it to go back and forth, so we use true. Then finally we can maybe add an opacity of 1 here, and a delay of about 2. So I'll save. So as you can see, GSAP is so straightforward and actually repetitive, so very easy to use. The design is very human. So okay, kidding, we didn't select it. It's very bad. So here, text. So we have selected each of the text to move upward, these ones, and we don't see them. Okay, we see them. Okay, it's moving way past our height, so this height, let it be, okay, it's 115 actually, so save. And now look, our animations are going one by one. It's taking too long, right, to start. Okay, we don't need to use the TL so that it doesn't have to wait for this. Okay, so let's say GSAP, it's waiting a duration of 15 before it starts, so we don't want that. Just say GSAP, then we can delay. Now look, if we refresh, 1, 2, so maybe we can add the duration here. For some reason, I don't know why these values are reversed. Should I get this? So I want it to start from React, not CSS, and it's not working. Let me go back there. Okay, instead of from, we should set it to 2. Okay, there we go. Cool. So that is GSAP. As you can see, it's easy to use. We have covered CSS, some custom styles, and now the next thing that we are going to do is to go on to our project section. So we were able to create this section, but I can see there is still some difference. One thing is that we don't have this background gradient. You can see here we have some background gradient. Another thing is that this looks like it's a little down than this. This section is a little bit up. The reason is because this was positioned absolute, but this one is positioned relative. Maybe one way of fixing that is by removing the, maybe we can remove padding bottom. So here you can say padding bottom of 0, and what if we remove this one, so it doesn't have to look exactly the same. So this looks this way, this looks this way. It's near, not exactly the same. Again, if you want exactly the same as this section, you have to make this to be positioned absolute, and therefore it will not occupy space. It will be on top of this section. Also, it can be positioned fixed. Another thing, to add the gradient, we need to come back here. So let's select hero section here, and we need to add a background with linear gradient of RGB. So this is the first value. This will be 8, 7, 11. Then the other value will be RGB, and we will have 23, then 28, then 35. So if I happen to save that, then go here. Now look, we have that linear gradient. Okay, the other thing is this link. As you can see, they are not exactly the same. You see this one? This looks bold. The line, this is thin. So I didn't use text decoration. I used border bottom. So maybe we can make it to be exactly the same as well. Hero content link. Okay, we will remove text decoration. We'll set it to none, but also we will add a border to the bottom, and this will be 2px solid RGB. Then it will be same color as text, which is 180, 180, 180. Just like that. Then we'll have if I save, you'll see now looks better. Now we will also have the hover effect, so I'll duplicate this part and add here hover. Just like that. Don't need all this. We just need to change the color and the border bottom color. So you can remove that. Then that. We'll set the green color, which is hash, this one. Then here we will set the green color, this one. So if I save now and hover, look, that looks exactly like what we have in this. So that's good. Now we have the animations, the background gradient, and fixed this link. So let's move on to the projects section. So for projects, we'll obviously start with HTML here. And for projects, it will be, a bit unique because it will have this effect of scrolling sideways. But for now, let's not worry about that, but design this with HTML and CSS, because this effect will be added by GSAP. So let's jump into this section after the hero section. So make sure you are outside this section. Actually, you can add comments. So you can say this is hero section. Then after this section here, you can say now we are at projects section. So the way I add comment is by using control then / okay. Let's say here section, and for this section we'll obviously have some class and ID. So ID here will be projects, then we'll have class, and for class we'll have projects as well, and then we'll have section, and also we'll have horizontal. Then down here we'll have a div, and we'll have a class called horizontal double _ animation, then hyphen wrap. So we'll use this with GSAP, and we'll have here also to write. We'll again use this with GSAP. So this wrap is basically for GSAP horizontal scroll. Okay, then in here, after the wrap, we'll have another one. We'll call it animation content wrap, and in here I'll have H2, and for this H2 is where you'll have the text, this one, my featured projects and courses. And for the class, this will be the title, so I'll call it animation title. You can call it projects title, but the thing is you can duplicate this section, just not for projects. Okay, you can have another same section with the same styling with different content. So that's why I had used animation. Then here we'll have title, and then underscore gradient, and here we'll also have, I can say, projects. Now this will be specific for this part, projects, then underscore main underscore title. So if I happen to check, we will add now this project item. So now we'll have this item. For this item we'll have image, heading, paragraph, icon with some text. This will be links. So let's create this card. Once we create one of them, we can just duplicate it because it will be similar to this. We need to have a div with a class of, I'll say this is now a single project item. So for each of them, we will still have this class of project item. We'll use it on GSAP. So you can actually add GSAP project item just to specify for GSAP. Then in here, okay, we will start with an image. So let's add a div with the class of project, then img. In here, we will have now the image img, and whatever we will say here is SLC is assets. So it's good to include an alt tag for SEO purposes and other reasons. If I save, we should see it down here. There we go. It's super big, and actually this course is so good. So if you're interested to run ManStack in React and Node, you can jump into my channel. It's basically the first one that you'll see when you are in my channel. Okay, so it's a very good course for those who want to go full stack. Okay, so this one here, it's a good one. If you want to learn about Socket.io, that is sending real-time messaging, we also have this one here, which is awesome. Cool. Anyway, a bit of self-advertisement. So I'll add a div with the class of project, then content, and in here I'll have a heading. So I'll have h3, and we will have project title, and also we will have a paragraph with the class of project description. We'll have some icons, so we can include them in another div. So I'll say dot project links. For a single link, we will have an a tag which will lead to somewhere. So here at href, you should include the actual link. For now, I'm adding hash as a placeholder. Actually, I can just include the actual link for the project. So I'll just copy this link here and add it here. And then here we want it, when you click the link, it opens on a new tab like it did here. So to add that effect, we need to add an attribute called target. For this target, we say underscore blank. Okay, so this is the link here. Then here we will have two things. We will have the icon and also we will have the text. So for the icon, this will be an SVG, and then for the text it will be in a span. So I can just say span, then here I'll say course. So let me add heading here and also the paragraph before we add the SVG icon. So for me, I'll just copy paste these right here, and now I can jump into bootstrap icons. You can use any kind of icons that you want. So for me, I'm using bootstrap icons. So for the link, you can get creative because you might not be having like the YouTube logo for your case. You can just search for link, then use this one or this one. I think this is better. Okay, use this. For me, I'll use YouTube just to tell people that this is on YouTube, this particular course. Then here I'll just you can either download, but I'll copy the HTML, so I'll include it directly in my code here. So I'll paste it here. Then you can do some few fixes for width and height. So if I save this, you'll notice that it's super small. It's down here. So what you can do here is to set this as 22. That will increase its size, height and width. Okay, now we are done with this HTML markup for this single project. So we can style it, and then after everything looks good, we can duplicate it multiple times as much as we want. But I recommend at least 3 to 4 projects are good for the section. If you have only 2, then it's okay. But for 2, I don't think you'll get the scroll effect. So we need to have about 4 or 5 for the scroll effect to be good. And also we don't want it to be too long. Okay, let's jump into CSS here. Then here we'll get started with projects section. It's good to add comments because sometimes the CSS can be too much here. So as you noticed, we didn't include the content wrap for this section because we want it to be different and unique. So here we will add everything as custom style. So here I'll say horizontal, then we will style the animation hyphen wrap. We will set a height of 100 VH. And then down here, let's select the animation content wrap now. Animation. We will add now here display of flex. This should have an effect. There we go. Awesome. And now we will also set like a max width. So we want this section to begin not at the very, if I'm on a big screen, you'll see it's not at the very start. So we want it to begin somewhere here. So here we will give it a max hyphen width of 20 px. Similar is the hero section. Then here we can add padding or round of 2 rem. Then we can add a gap between items of 5 rem. In this case, the items is the heading and the entire of these project items. So two parts. Then also to center this max width here, we can add a margin of auto. Then let's add like a background color, and you'll see where this section is at. So if I come back, let's expand. You see now it begins at this point up to this point. Now let's style this part here, the project card, and also this heading here. So let me remove this background. I just wanted to show you where this section is at. Okay, so now down here, by the way, we have this class here, this horizontal class. Remember we had added at our main.css here horizontal is having an overflow of hidden. So that will be the main section here, but still we have overflow because of it's overflowing inside this particular div. So for now, let's not worry about that, but complete the CSS part of it, where we make sure that the card looks okay. So down here we can start with the animation title. So I'll say dot animation title, animation title, and we just need to change the font size to be 2 rem and maybe the flex width. So we can set flex. So flex has shrink, it has basis, and also grow. So I'll set grow and shrink to be 0. Then also here basis will be 250px. So basically it will give this part a width of 250px. Now it looks bigger and much better. Now that's all there. For down here we select a single project, which will be now our card here, and we will add a flex again here, and this we want to set a height, okay, not a height but again a width of 400. So width here is now 400, but this image is too big and affecting everything. So maybe we should first resize the image. So down here let us target the image, and now in here we can set the width of the image to be 100%, and let's save. Now look, much better, looks awesome. And border radius for the image, so we want this border radius to be on the top parts, so top left and top right. So this will be 15px, then the rest will be 0. So if I save, you'll see now at the top here we have 15px border radius. I don't know why this is not having a height of 100 vh. Why is it not affecting? Let's add a background of, I don't know, red. So this class is not being selected. Horizontal. Okay, I missed an N, so you can use background color to see if it's working or not. Now it's there, it's the entire of this part. Cool. Let's continue with project here. We will add a border radius of 15px. Now this will be applied on the bottom, but we won't see the effect because we don't have a background color. So let's add a background color or a background of RGB, and we will use this color 23, then 28, then 35, this one. So I will save, and now look, we have that. So we need to have, I think, some form of padding. Actually I'll add the padding on the project content. So remember we had the image here and the content here. So let's select the content, and that's where we will add some padding. We will add a padding of about 1.2 rem. Yeah, now that is cool. Down here after the image we can select the title. So I'll say .project title, and for this we will set the font size. So font size to be 1 rem, so smaller. Then we can select the description, and again here what we will do, we'll change the color to be RGB 180, 180, 180, this one. We will change the line height, so line hyphen height. I think here we missed, so here I'll set it to be 1.5. So if I save, you can see it's taking shape. So we need some margin, top and bottom. So top and bottom 1.5, as not one is too big, 0.5 rem, and then left and right to be 0, and down here we will change the font size to be smaller. So I'll say font hyphen size to be 0.75. so you can see this is rem, much smaller. But also we'll change the font family to something different, which is Poppins, and a fallback here of sans serif, and then here we'll have a font weight of 400. So this looks good, this card looks good. We need to style the link, so down here we select dot project links. So we'll add a display of flex. We'll have margin to the top of 1 rem, and here we'll have a gap of 1 rem. That is for these links. Right now we have one, but when we add 2 of them, we'll be having a gap between them of 1, margin between them of that. Actually, we should add it. So let's come here. This Z tag up to this point should duplicate it. Maybe here you can say code instead of course. Code. Then here it will not take me to YouTube anymore, so I remove the link for YouTube. I'll use a placeholder in this case now. Then you can use a GitHub icon or maybe a code icon, whichever you want. If your code is on GitHub, I think GitHub will be cool. So you can say GitHub on Bootstrap icons. What is this? Git. This one will look very good on this section. So you can copy that. Then you need to replace the SVG up to this point with the GitHub one. Then you will change maybe the width here to be the same as the previous one. So if I save and come back, look, we have that GitHub one. Awesome. Now if we style them, you will see what we are doing. Let's come down here and select the A element itself. So I'll say project, then underscore links, and I'll select A, and whatever we do here, add a display of flex. So this is the span and the SVG, and then we will add a text hyphen decoration of none. This will remove the underline, just like that. Then here let's add a gap between them of 7px. We can align the items to the center and change the color to 180. Then change the font size to about 0.8 rem. You can also have the hover effect. So here we select this and say here hover. If we hover on the link, we'll just change the color. So here we'll change the color, this one. I save. Now when I hover, we have that. I think it looks good. You can set the icon size to be smaller, or it can remain that way. But if I compare this with this, looks good. So the reason why this is way much, thin, it's because of the responsiveness part of it. So we haven't made this to be responsive. So on a bigger screen, this looks the same as this. You get the point, right? Cool. I don't think our section is at the center. You see, it's at the very top. So what we are missing is at this horizontal wrap, we can simply make this to be a flex container by adding a display of flex, and this will center this part. Awesome. You see, it's taking shape. So we need to add like 3 more of this section. So what I'll do, I'll just duplicate them. But for you, you'll need to change the content. So I'll take this project right here, then I'll go up to where it ends right here, then I will copy, then down here I'll paste. Let me save and see. Now we have 2 of them, so I'll have about 5. So now we have these 5 of them, and I can only scroll with these. So we'll add the scrolling effect with GSAP, and that is what we are going to do next. We will need to use GSAP for us to be able to scroll sideways. We will select every section that has the horizontal class. Okay, remember you can reuse this section in multiple places, so that's why I'm like selecting all the sections with the horizontal class. So here I'll say const horizontal sections will be equal to GSAP dot utils then dot to array. So these will convert the sections. It will select them and place them in form of an array. So we can be able to use some array methods like looping through them using the for each loop. So here I'll add a class of dot horizontal, and if I happen now to log it to the console, so console dot log of this, you'll see that if I inspect here, you'll see it's in form of an array. So you have one of them, which is this section. So if you had multiple sections, you can be able to, you know, reuse the same classes but still create that horizontal effect, which is cool if you want to add this somewhere else within the project. So now to select this specific section, or to select all the sections where we want the horizontal effect, we can just say horizontal sections, then we use the for each loop to go through each section. I will invoke it, and then in here we will need to pass in a function. So this is another function which will have a section at a time, and now we can be able to make use of this section in here. So using this section, we can select the horizontal wrap, we can select this horizontal animation wrap and this animation content wrap, both of them. So let's do that right here. So now this anime content wrap is overflowing with content. We will get the width that we need to scroll to using this anime content wrap. Okay, then we will trigger the animation using this anime wrap. So in here we need to do some calculations, and I'll say let get to value. So this is the value that we will be scrolling to, be equal to a function. So here we will return some value. So we will say negative, and we'll take the animation content wrap scroll width dot scroll width, and then I want to remove half of the viewport width. Okay, I said sector instead of selector. So here selector, here selector. So here we take the entire of the width but remove like half of the width here. So how we will get that is by using windows dot inner width, and then I divide this by 2. So the reason I'm using half the width is so that when I scroll to the end, I'll have some spacing. You see right now it's at the very end. I want it to have some spacing up to this point, maybe halfway. So the rest of this space will be empty. That's why I'm removing half of the width. Now we have this get to value For mobile it will be a bit different, because I'll want, if we do this way, the content for mobile will not be visible when we scroll to the very end, but I want half of it to be still visible. So I will decrease the amount that we are subtracting from here. So here we'll say if window then dot inner width, this is like the viewport width, is less than 650. This is in pixels, so we just set it that way. If it's less than that, then we will recalculate this get to value. So I'll just highlight get to value without the let, since we are reassigning it. But whatever I will do is that I'll divide this by 2, but also get to subtract 140 to decrease that value further. So these two will be different. So now we can add the animation using GSAP, and right here I'll just say GSAP dot, we have this from to, and we'll move from a certain value to a certain value. We are animating the anime wrap section, this one, so we say we are animating anime wrap, and moving from X, and we'll perform a check before we assign the value. So here we use an arrow function to return a value. So like this, we'll check if this anime wrap has to write value. If it has to write value, then we will start at a certain point going to a certain point. So here we will check the class list for anime wrap. So if it contains to write, that means that we want to move from 0 up to this get to value. So if this is true, we use this operator, and if it's true, we move from 0. Okay, we move from 0. If it's false, we will move from the other side, from the right side. So we will move from the get to value point. Okay, this is like the end, else this is like the start. Okay, so if we have to write, we move from left to right. If we don't have this, we will move from get to value, that is from right to left. So we can scroll back and forth, which is cool. So here I'll include that to call the value. So this is the from value. We need to set the to value. So we will do a similar thing. So I'll copy it, and for the to value, it will be vice versa. We'll be moving to get to value, and here will be 0. So from to, I'll include a comma still inside the to value here, the two brackets here. So in here we'll add is to be none, then we will add now scroll trigger so that our effect takes place. So let's have scroll trigger. So this will be an object. So the trigger for this animation, where we are moving from here to here, will be our anime wrap. So here we will say anime wrap. We need to say start will be top, and then end. Here we will return a value. So just add this and then plus. Then we'll do some calculation like this one again. I will copy this, but without the negative value. And here I will just remove it a little bit, 20. This is to make everything to be visible on the screen. I found these values working out well for me. You can play around with them if you want. We need to pin our section, so we'll say pin our anime wrap. Then this need to have a comma. I'll add 2 more values. We have an invalidate on refresh property, which I'll set to true. We need to add this property called scrub, so that it follows the scroll, and we'll set it to true. So now you see it follows now our scroll. So if I refresh, move down, we get to this section. I can see here we have an overflow at our hero section, which we will need to remove. But the good thing is that when we get to this section, it's pinned. So we have this pinned property, it's pinned, and this trigger will start the animation, and scrub will now allow us to animate as we move along. Like when I scroll now, it's following my scroll up to some point here. Now this width, you can play around with it. Like if you come here, maybe if we change the get to value for this by removing the inner width here, let's remove that and try it out. So you'll see we have this blank space, which is our inner width. You see, this is why I was like subtracting some value so that we won't have that black space. We get to a point right here. If we are at the end, we continue scrolling down instead of getting to a blank screen. So that's why we subtract this value right here. Okay, I hope it makes sense. And if we subtract all of it, let's see what we have. Let's see. If we subtract all of it, we'll have an effect like this, where we don't have space at the end here. So I like get half of the value so that we go halfway, then continue scrolling. So I hope that makes sense now, right? So let's return this divide by 2. The same reason why we are doing this, so that we see some content for mobile. Yeah, so I'll save, and now we have our scroll effect, which you can easily reuse on a section. So for example, if now we go to index.html file and copy this project section, select it like that and copy it down here, and I save. So you'll see now we have 2 of them. So we have this section, we scroll up to the end, we get to this other section again, we scroll up to the end. So you can add multiple effects, okay? And the thing is, for us to scroll the other way around, you just need to remove this property to right. So if you remove this and save, you'll see now we'll scroll backward. So if I start scrolling down, we have this effect up to this point. If I get here now, we are starting now from the end going to the front, since we removed to right property. So I hope now that makes sense. You can easily reuse that section, and that's why we were using these classes, which you can easily use them somewhere else. So I'll go ahead and remove this section since it's a duplicate and I don't want that. So one thing that I'm seeing is an overflow here. I think we can add overflow X of hidden. Overflow X. So I save that, and now if I refresh, we have that. If I scroll down, we no longer see that overflow. Cool, pretty nice. Now the only thing that remains on this section is to add animation for these cards whenever we get to this section. So here we will create a timeline, our projects TL, GSAP timeline. Then we scroll trigger will be our projects. So here we can use the class name of projects. You can just say .projects, just like that. Then top bottom toggle will be here. We'll say restart. So when we are getting into this section, we will restart the animation. When we are getting back, I don't think it creates a cool effect, therefore I'll just omit that. So that is our TL. Then we can use this TL to animate stuff. So here let's have our projects TL, then we say dot from, and here we will start by selecting the project title. So I can say project main title. So we'll start by animating this one, and here just like that we have our animation for this. Let's refresh and scroll here. Actually it doesn't animate, it should. We have an issue, I'm not sure which, but let us first add animation for the cards here. We'll select GSAP, then project, then item. We will not have scale, then we will have Y, we'll have 30, then opacity 0, we will not have delay or ease, but we will have stagger since we have multiple items for this. So stagger about 0.2 will do. Duration, let's remove part 1. Let's save. GSAP projects. Is it projects or project? Project. It's project. Okay, here scroll trigger should start with a small there. I think that's the issue. I'm being hopeful. So if I go back, scroll down, there we go, perfect. So it's just a small mistake which is hard to catch. Here this is start with a small, then trigger. So now this is working as expected. This is the effect. So this is the home page. If we scroll down, we see these animations, and then we scroll sideways. I think that's a pretty good effect. Then when we get at the end here, we'll be able to scroll to the next section, which is now our about, just like this. So next we'll work on this section, which is our about section. We just need to get started with the HTML. Okay, let's scroll down up to where we have the end of our section, and we'll add another section now. So this will be about section, and here we can start with the section tag. We will have an ID, so we use hash about. Then we will have a class, we use dot about, and for this class we will also have section. Now in here we will have a div with a class of content wrap. Remember we had styled this class, so content wrap h2 dot about double underscore title, and here we'll say profile. We'll want it to have the linear gradient, so we'll say title double underscore gradient. Then we will also have this as a GSAP about item, just like that. So if I save and go to our site here, scroll down, we have this profile. Cool. Let's continue adding content to this section. After this title, we will have this area where we have the content, where we have the actual profile and this content. So we'll have a div there with a class of about content area. So I'll say dot about content hyphen area. Now here we will have two links. We will have this and this. So let's start with the first one, which is about profile. This will also be a GSAP about item. So I'll copy this and paste here, and in this we can start adding content for the profile. We will be having a profile image, so profile, then img, and in here we can have the actual image just like this. So src will be assets, then stroke, we go to avatar image there, then alt, we can say this is an avatar or a profile, then that will be done there. So we see the image there. We can have a profile bio, so dot profile _ bio, then I can just copy paste from here. I code and create tech content on YouTube. You can have your different kind of a bio, doesn't have to be this one. Then here we can have tags, so I can say profile _ tags. Then in here we will have a span, then I'll duplicate it 2 more times just like that. Then here we'll have web development, so I'm trying to select web development or web developer. Web developer is the first one. Yeah, I think that's good. Profile _ starts. Okay, I missed the spelling here. Starts. Here for starts, we will be having a div for each. So here I can just say a div, and here we will have a span. Then here I'll include a space and say videos. We'll have a similar thing for the other. Now I'll have 10K. So yours can be like, you know, you have done 500 projects, you have won 20 awards, so you can get creative with whatever to include at the stats here. If you have a blog, you have written 200 blog posts, so yeah, just find whatever you want here. So 800K views. And thank you all for the subs, the views. It's a lot. That is the stats. And finally we have these icons. Awesome. These are like social icons, so I'll include them in a div called profile links. Then in here we'll have a link at a time, it will go to somewhere. Then you can include a target of blank, then we'll have like 2 of them. Then in here we want to have these icons, you can just jump into bootstrap icons. We have GitHub already here, so I need to copy this one here, so go to right here, so I'll paste GitHub here. You can make the icons bigger, about 20, 22 will do. About 20, it's actually a decent size, not too big, not too small. So that is for GitHub. Then you can search for Twitter, for, you know, YouTube. There we go. So that is for the profile, but we have the other section where we have this text, so we can call it like the about content. So you need to make sure that you are outside about profile. So check this highlighted line if you are on VS Code, and you'll make sure that you come out here and say about content. This one will also be a GSAP about item. Then in here the paragraph, and here we'll only have the hello. Let's add a class of about hello. Then here we'll say hello. Then we'll have a span with a class of about hello with, since this is a modifier, you use double hyphen, then with. Then in this span I include the waving emoji, we include a wave there. Then we'll be able to animate this with CSS. So there we go. Now we have a paragraph somewhere down here. Awesome. Let's come here and we'll add another paragraph, which is like the description now. So we'll add this as one paragraph, paste. Then here I'll add another one, just a brief description, copy, paste. So this is supposed to be a link, but I won't like focus on it. If you want to add a link, I'm sure you know how to do it by now, just the way we did with our resume here. About, so I copied the last one here, just like that. So there we go. Now we have the content for about in the HTML markup. Now all that remains is to style that section. Let's jump into CSS. We'll select the about here and let's give it a background color. So this makes us to see the difference between sections. So you can see this section is different from this. This is dark, this is blue. Then the hero has a gradient. And you can see this site is starting to come along, right? We select the content wrap because we want to manipulate it. So I say about, then dot content wrap. Then here we change the flex direction to column, and we change the justify content, and we will change this to center. And finally here we will align items to start. Save. There we go. Now this heading is here and the content area is down here. Okay, now we will target the content area since we want to have this profile and the content side by side. So down here, let's select our dot about double underscore content hyphen area. We will display flex and include a gap. So display flex and gap will be for rem. Now look, they are side by side with a gap. Actually, we can increase the size of this title. Let's select our about title dot double underscore title and make it to rem, so it's bigger. Let's focus on the profile now. Right here, we say dot about double underscore profile. We'll add a box shadow. Box hyphen shadow. It should be bluish, so this is 79. So I save. Look, it's bluish, looking much better. And we need padding of 1.5 rem, and we need border radius of 15 px, and we will reduce the color to be RGB from pure white to 250 to 50 to 50. Let's add a display of flex, and let's make sure that the flex direction is still in a column. So flex direction is still column. Most importantly is now the align of items, that we will center everything like that. Then we will set a maximum width of this using flex. We'll say flex 00 and flex basis will be for 50 px. Okay, looking good. Now let's target this image and we will change the height and the width. So height will be 128 px. I want to make sure that it's a square, so it's best that you use a square image for this effect to work well. So if it's not a square image, the image might start looking weird. So make sure it's a square image, so that here you can add border radius of 50%. Yeah, that's circle. That's what we are looking for. Now let's target this bio down here. I'll say dot profile bio, and we'll add margin top and bottom of 0.7 rem, left and right 0. So to create some spacing there, let's target our tags. So here we'll say dot profile underscore tags. We'll add font size to reduce the font size to be 0.7. It's a tag anyway, it doesn't have to be big. We'll add margin to the bottom of 1 rem. Then let's select the span for the tag. So here we'll say dot profile tags. We make sure that we select the span, and here so padding around the tags, then margin around the tags, then finally for them to look like tags we add some border radius, and 15 px will do. Now they look like actual tags, right? We need to select the stats, these. So here I just need to say dot profile stats, then we will display flex. We want them to be at the center, so display flex, then align item center, then flex direction will make it to be column, so margin but so this will create spacing between it and the links here. So there we go. Finally, you can change the font weight 400. Down here let's select a span that is inside our profile stats. We'll change its font family, so I'll change font to Poppins, and you see this looks much better. Then we'll make it pop by font width of 700. Onto the links. We'll change the color RGB 250 250 250, margin to the right of 20px. Okay, hover effect for the link. Okay, so we'll just change the color here to the green color. Now when I hover, okay, this is on hover, sorry, hover. So it's not coming. Okay, when you hover, it's there, and it's kind of hard to hover, so you might as well increase the size of the icons. So we move on to this section. We have this wave, so we can select it, dot about wave. So here we will display inline block, we will animate. We need to create an animation. We use these at keyframe, then we give our animation a name. So we want this animation to start from 0%. We usually have from 2, but I want this to look like a wave, so I want it to move step by step. From is usually 0%, then to 100%, but I want to add several gaps in there. So here we will transform, then we will rotate by 0 degrees. We will have several of these. I'll add about 8. So at 10 degrees we will transform rotate at 14 degrees. Now here at 60 we will set rotate 0. At 100 we go to 0. So that is the animation. So here we can say animation is wave, then it will go on for 3 seconds and it will be infinite. Look, it's waving, but from the bottom. So to make it wave from the top, you can add here transform origin of 70%, 70%, Look now, it's waving. Hello. Cool. Looks good. We can increase the size of about hello here. Right here. About underscore hello. We say font size to them. It will be big. Now look, hello with margin to the bottom here. So margin bottom to be 1.5 rem. Okay, here. Now let's select the paragraphs here. We say dot about underscore content. Then we'll select the paragraph, and right here we'll set margin 15 px top and bottom, then 0. Yeah, that will make sense. So I save, and now we can see the different paragraphs clearly, right? Which is cool. But I also want a different font family, so I'll set these to Poppins, then sans serif. Then here we will change the font weight to 400, and line height makes it to be more readable of 28 px. Now look, looks good, right? Yeah, to me it's good, and we have achieved a similar design to this one, right? It's a bit different though. We can set the margin top and bottom here for tags. Okay, I'll go with that. We just need to add some animations for GSAP, and then we will be done with that section. So this will be easy, very easy actually. We just need to copy this one, then here about section, then I paste. We change this to about TL, then the trigger here will now be dot about, and then top bottom, then restart none. Here now we'll say restart actually. Restart, save, and this is the TL, so let's create the animation using it, about TL. The animation will be similar to this, so let's copy this one, paste it here. This will be about TL. Everything that have GSAP about item will get effect of Y30, opacity 0, stagger. We can increase this to 3 if we want. There we go, easy. For this hero section, actually this scroll trigger is not working, so remove this and include an S. Also previously on the last section I had missed the spelling for project, so I changed that to the correct one, but it was still working. So now if we preview this page, let's go to the very top. You see this section is working by scroll trigger. So when we refresh, first of all we'll get that, then we scroll to this section, we get animation, we scroll sideways, we get to this point, we scroll down. Okay, when we get here, this should show animations. Okay, they are there, but they are there. They are just so quick for some reason. You can add maybe a delay or a duration, but they are there. I don't want to overdo it, so if we come back here, you see scroll trigger is now working, and we have completed 3 cool sections right here. Looks epic. And yeah, the next thing that we will cover now is education and experience. So on to the resume section. We'll just add a section, then dot resume, and in this class we'll also have section. We'll have the dot underscore content wrap class. Then in here we'll have another class of resume, we can say body. Then in here we'll have our heading for the resume section. It will have the gradient, so we remember to add title gradient. This will be a GSAP resume item. We'll have this title here, so let's paste it here. I'll say dot resume content. So after this body down here is where we will have dot resume illustration, and this illustration will also be a GSAP resume item. Then in here we'll have the img, and we'll target the assets stroke road to knowledge. I'll take this png, then add here. So let's add content to this now, resume content. So for resume content we will be having something like this. We'll have this year, title, then like a place. This will be a resume item underscore item, and it will also be a GSAP resume item. So this is the entire of this section here. Okay, one scenario. So here we can start with a span for the year, and we can say 2019 to present, 2019 to present, and this will have a class. Let's add a class, and we'll say resume hyphen or underscore year p dot so resume activity, and here I'll say tech content creator. So I'll say resume, you can say location or place. Then here I'll say youtube.com or the name of a company and so on. So these resume item, I can have several of them. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can have about 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's jump into CSS, and down here this is resume section, resume content, and we'll say margin to the left of 1 rem. Okay, now it starts here. It's okay. Now down here we will select the resume title dot resume title. We'll increase its font size, so font hyphen size to be 2 rem, and down here we'll add margin to the bottom of 2 rem dot resume, and we'll say illustration, and I'll give this a flex of 1 to begin with. We need to also give the other one a flex of 1, which is the resume body. So resume body, so they will occupy equal spacing, flex of 1. So by this, let's see if we have any change. No. Let's target the image itself. So I can duplicate this one and say here img, and here we give it a width of 100 px, 100%, that is not px, width. Okay, why did it select down here? Width of 100%. There we go. Now it's smaller. Good. So now we'll be able to focus on our content. So down here, dot resume item, and I'll add padding to the left of 70 px. This will have a position of relative, then padding the bottom of 50 px. So this includes spacing between them, just like that. Awesome. Let's select the after pseudo element. So this is how we can do it. I'll duplicate this one, and here we'll use after. We remove everything. It should be this way. Now right here, content will be empty. Then we'll set this to have a position of absolute, and now we can be able to give it a background color of RGB 180 180 180. It's not yet visible because it doesn't have a width and a height, so it's a line. This will be the line. So width is 1 px, then height will be 100% of the resume item, so 100%. So it will run all the way. So if I save now, look, we have line for each of them. Now we can change the way they are positioned. So here, first of all, we'll say let left be 0, just like that. Remember here we had padding left of 70. So if we say 0, it will go to about the beginning here. So this 70 value is between these two. For example, if we reduce it to 20, you see it's there. Cool. So about 70. Then top will give it, if we say top 0, look, it is that at the top, but we don't want it to be 0 though. We want it to be a little bit down, so I'll say 15 px, like that. Then let's have a z index here, z index of 0, because I want the knob to be at the top of the line. So if I come here, we have these knobs. I'll select both resume here, and actually the spelling here is wrong, so I use a comma and resume place, so dot. So for both of them, we'll have position of relative. Mainly this is for the year, because we'll create a before pseudo element for it. But even if we add it on place, it won't have any issues. So let us change the font size here of 0.8, then change the color to something pale. So we want the activity to pop, so we change color here to RGB 180 180 180, save, and there we go. The activity pops. The others are just there as extra information. Now when we hover, we want the ear to pop, so we add a hover effect to the ear. So you can do it after here. So dot resume, when we hover on the resume item is when we want the color to change. So we will do this, we'll remove this hover here, but we'll come here and select dot resume item. When we hover that resume item, we'll change the color for resume here to that color. Then this is go like that. So I save. When I hover, look, when I hover on the item, the year changes the color. Cool. Now here we'll have the before pseudo element for the year. So dot resume year, then before we create that knob, and most of these styles gonna be the same. Most of the properties here. Let's copy and we paste here. This should be 2 of them. So let's adjust these ones to fit well. So content will be empty, position will be absolute, color will be this way, so height will be 12px, and height and width will be 12px, just like that. Okay, left. So left we will consider the padding, which is 70, and the width of these. So here left we say 75px, which will be like on the left negative, so this will be negative side, this side. Then top will be about half of this 6px. Z index, we want it to be at the top of the line 1. So if I save, you see we have our knob there, and here actually I can say 75.5. Actually you can let it be this way. I think it as a box it still looks good, but if you want it to be circular, you just need to add a border radius of 50%, and there we go. We have created the timeline. Super easy. So when we hover, we also want the knob to pop. So I'll come here and select this, copy, then down here I'll paste, then we'll say resume item hover and resume year before. We'll say before, and we'll change the background color to this green color. So replace this with this and save. Now when I hover, look, the knob is now also being hovered. Amazing. So one last thing, I can target the resume activity here and change the font size. So resume activity, and font size I'll increase it a bit to 1.3 rem. So if I save, look, it's bigger. Then I can give it some spacing as well. So margin top and bottom of 5px will do, and left and right 0. Now there we go. Look at that section. Look at that section, guys. Really nice. Okay, now for you, you need to change each of these, but for me it's cool. It's cool since I'm just showing you how to do it. Okay, now we need to add GSAP. It's pretty easy, GSAP. So here, resume section, it will be similar to this. I'll copy all of that and paste it down here. So instead of about, I'll edit everything to resume. So here it's a resume timeline. Scroll trigger, trigger will be resume, then start top bottom, then toggle action, restart none, restart none, resume tl dot from. This will be GSAP resume item. Then y30 opacity 0, stagger 0.3. It's cool. Let's save and see. Look, amazing. If we scroll up, come back, we have added the animation. So we have completed the resume section for now until we get to mobile responsiveness. I'm happy with that. So now I want us to work on the services section, where we will have this intro, then we'll create these cool cards with this effect. And let's jump into our HTML and start with the markup. So here, let's start with a comment of services section. Then down here, we'll create a section tag. So make sure you are after this section tag so that you create a new one, section. And this will have a class of services and section. So services and then dot section. Then in here we'll have our content wrap. So let's say content hyphen wrap. Then in our content wrap we will have this heading, then this paragraph. We'll have a h1. We will give it a class of services title. So services title, and it will also have another class of title gradient, and then we will have a GSAP service item. So all those classes, and it will say work interest and what I can offer. You can think of other creative words to use here. Then we'll have a paragraph with these classes, work hyphen interest, GSAP service item, hit enter, and this will basically describe what kind of an environment I would like to work in. Now after these two, we'll create this one now here. So these will be positioned absolutely to this, and then we'll lay them on top of each other, and with GSAP we'll be able to thread them in one by one. So we'll create them after our paragraph. So we'll have a class of, and then this will be GSAP service, then item hyphen one. Okay, this container is not for all the services, but for each of them. So I think service item container will make more sense. Okay, for this to work, we have to include dot, then one. There we go. So this is for one of the service, and they look the same. So let's complete one of them, then we can duplicate. We will now have the card, this one here. So we can create a div with the class of service card. We will divide this into two, the icon part and where we have the content. So starting with the icon, we'll say dot service hyphen card hyphen double underscore icon. Then in here we'll have the icon. So we'll have a wrapper, which is the white part, and the icon inside it. So let's create the wrapper. Then in here we will add the icon in form of an image. So although you can add it as an SVG as well, in this case I'll add it as an image. So I'll say assets, we'll go to icons, then we'll have code /svg. Then here you can have the alt code / icon and save. So if we check down here, we have this, let me type anything. So the icon is here, only that I think it's also black. Don't worry about it. Once we add a background of white, it will be visible. We will have another div with a class of service card content. Then in here we will have the title. The title will be maybe web development, so you can add it here. We will have a class for this, and it will say service card _title. Then down here we'll have a paragraph, and it will say, and it will have a class of service card _paragraph, and we can paste some content there just like these. So here will be one of the sections, one of the service. So I'll duplicate this. We can duplicate it like 3 more times or 2 more times, or 4. Okay, there'll be 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of them will have a different class differentiating them. So this has item 1, after 1 this will be 2, these will be 3, these will be 4. So for you, you can change the content inside, but for me, I let it stay this way. Okay, so I'm done with the HTML and I can jump into CSS. We can add a comment, services section. Then in here we'll target dot services class, and let's add a different background. Then you'll add a position of relative, as I have told you. Each of these services will be positioned absolutely to our services section, so that now it will be on top of that section. So here we'll also add an overflow of X as hidden, and once I save, so this is bluish, this is black, this is bluish, creating a cool effect there. Let's target the content wrap and manipulate it. So down here I'll say dot services and then dot underscore content wrap. We will change the flex direction to column and justify content to the center, and also we will align the items, but we'll do this to the start. So I'll save. So this will organize this section here just like we have it here. We start with this, then this. Cool. Let's continue down here, and we can target the services title. So dot services double underscore title, and we will simply change the font size for this one to be 2 rem, so it will be bigger. We can target the work interest, which is our paragraph. We'll change the line height to be 28px. Then we will change the font family to be Poppins, and a fallback of sans serif. Then down here we'll change the font weight to be 400. So I'll save. Now we'll select the container that is containing a single service. So I'll say dot service item container, and right here we'll change the position to be absolute, and when I save, you'll see now it's on top of this section. We will give it a height of 100%. We'll give it a width of 100%. Let right be 0. So down here I need to differentiate between the sections, so I can select the individual services using these classes. We had GSAP service item, then one. We'll give it a background of different colors. These will be 2, these will be 3, these will be 4, 1, 6. Now this is the one that we see is the last one here. We also have these others which are on top of each other, so we can't basically see them. Okay, so let's come back here. We want to center our card, so we'll center this card here, which we haven't created yet, by adding a display of flex, and also we will add line items of center, and then we will add justify content of center, and we can add padding of 4 rem, so that will prevent the card from touching the corners in case it's too long. Now you can see this is at the center. Let's target the card and style it, and we can give it a background color RGB, this color 23, 28, 35. So let's make our card better. We can give it like a max width of 700 px, and then we will add a padding around it. So padding about 40 px will do, and we will add border radius to it of 7 px. We'll display the icon and the content side by side, so we'll add a display of flex. There we go. So now this is what we have. Let's target the icon, so dot service card, then underscore icon. We'll add styles here. We'll make it have a flex of 1, and the service card content will have a flex of about 5 times that of icon. Now you can see the icon there. Awesome. So I'll say dot service, then underscore icon hyphen wrapper. We will add a background to it, which will be whitish. So let's add a width of 70 px and a height of 70 px. We don't see it, but I think we should be seeing it. This icon wrapper is wrong, so if I highlight that, you can see it's highlighting even this. Use Ctrl D to select multiple, then add service there, and now you can see that background. Awesome. So it's a typo. Border radius. I think we have a cool website for generating border radius called Fancy Border Radius CSS Border Radius. And this is the one that I used. So if you click on this, you'll get to a page like this, and you can get a border radius like this one. I'll just copy the default, and that is what I'll paste here as the border radius. Okay, I should have included border radius first and paste the values in here. So if I save that, you'll see now we have a fancy border radius. You can manipulate these values by playing around with them. You can generate any shape that you want. We want to center the icon in here. Right now the icon is too big, so we can target the icon and give it a certain width. So here we'll target the wrapper, then IMG, and we'll give the icon a width of 40%. So if I save now, the icon is small, but we can center it and it will look much better. Right here we'll add a display of flex, then we'll align the items to the center, we'll justify content to the center, and I think that will do it. There we go. And also I'll add a flex shrink here of 0. There we go. So we have this icon design. Awesome. Where we had this content, we will add padding to the left of about 30px, and also we will be adding a border to the left, and this will be 1px solid, then RGB, and this will be 54, 64, 77. I'll save, and there we have a line there separating between the two parts. We can select this paragraph and change its font and maybe color. So here I'll say dot service card _ paragraph. We'll change the color first to RGB 180, 180, 180. Right here we'll change the line height to 1.5. We'll add margin top of 0.8, rem to create some distance between the paragraph and the heading. Font family to be Poppins, and a fallback of sans serif. Also we'll change the font weight to regular, which is 400. So we are done with the CSS part of it. So to create the scroll effect, it's easy. So here we will create a timeline. We'll say const services TL to be equal to GSAP dot timeline. We invoke it. We will have a scroll trigger. So scroll trigger, then the trigger will be the service section, and I should include this in an object. So it should look like this: scroll trigger, then services here. We say start to be top, and here you'll say end to be this value plus minus 4000. Include a comma here and a comma here. Then here we'll add scrub, a value called scrub, and we'll set this one to true. Then we will pin our section, so add pin to be true, and here we'll add anticipate pin true as well. Nothing much is happening, but now we can make use of this service TL down here. So we'll say services TL dot from, and we will select a class. We had added these classes right here: GSAP services item 1. So we'll select it here, and we'll make it move from a certain place to the current position. So we'll include this value x%. So x% takes its full width. So we'll say x%, and we'll set it to negative 100. So it will take the full width of this item and push it to a negative value. And whenever we scroll is when it will get from that value to the current position. Once it reaches the end, it will move to the next one. So I'll save. So right now nothing much is happening because of the others which are on top of this section. So let's duplicate this, and these now will be 2, 3, 4. Let's make each of them to come from a different direction. So this one will be along the y-axis with the negative value as well. Then this one will again be x-axis 100 without the negative, and this y-axis 100. Now we should be having the effect, but we don't, so something is definitely wrong. And at the console there are no issues. Here I messed up this one. This should be equal sign, not minus. And once I scroll, there we go, we have all of them working. So if I scroll down, I have that section, this section, this section, this section. So you have this cool effect using scroll trigger. And if you remove something like scrub, you'll see what scrub does is that it waits for you to scroll, and if it's not there, you'll see that the animation is happening without the scroll. So if we add scrub, it will follow the scroll just like that. Let's see what happens if you remove pin. So if I remove pin, nothing happens. So the sections are not like pinned. So yeah, play around with values and maybe check at GSAP documentation for anything that doesn't make sense. And one last thing that you can do is to add some animation for this section whenever you get to this point. So that is easy. We need to create maybe a different timeline. We will have scroll trigger. I'll copy this one. And trigger will be surfaces, start, top, bottom. Then we can have toggle actions whenever we get to this point. Toggle actions, and here we'll say restart, and we will have none, and also we'll have restart. Actually, we shouldn't be including commas, so remove the commas here, and none. Now we can make use of this. I think it will be so similar to this one. We can copy that one, then we can use it down here. This will be animate services TL, then y30 opacity 0. We'll have stagger. For this one, you can add a delay of about 0.8. Then here, this will be GSAP service item. I think item I used a different class, so this one GSAP service item, I used hyphen. So for consistency you can use the same, but I want I don't want to keep editing the HTML for now. So now when we get to this section, we'll have that animation happening. So if I scroll down, we have it, then we'll have this cool effect, and we'll move on to the next section. I want us to move on to technologies, so this should be easy and quick, and then after that we'll complete with our contact section. So let's jump into HTML, and down here after this section we'll create another section for technologies or skills. You can call it skills as well. Technologies section. We'll have a section with a class of tech and also a class of section. And also I think we are forgetting to add IDs. So ID tech. I think we forgot to add ID for this section. So ID services. Let's check the other sections. ID resume is a cool. Another thing that which I saw we were missing is on our links. So here at the links, remember we had our navbar. Here we were adding href projects, but here the ID should be also about, as well as contact. I missed that, so maybe you did as well. You can check it out. And in here we'll have our content wrap class, so dot content, then hyphen wrap. We'll have the heading h2, which will say technologies. We can just copy this one here. I'll obviously have a class for our title gradient, and also I'll have tech title, and finally we'll have GSAP tech item, just like that. And all of them will be inside the container. So let's add this container. I'll say dot tech items container. We'll have each of the items, so dot tech underscore item, and we'll have GSAP tech item. So here we'll have two things, image. Let's add the first one, which is React assets, then stroke tech React. Then here you can say React. Then we'll have a span here, which will say React. Then here we'll have a class of tech item text. So I will save. So again, I won't keep adding each of the images. I have already shown you an example of how the structure will look like. All you need to do is to duplicate this tech item and change the image, the text, and alt. So I'll duplicate this. So alt shift bottom arrow. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So 10 is good. And if we check, I'll scroll down here. So we have it here, and we should make it look much better. So let's jump into CSS and quickly complete this. So here we'll have tech section. I'll select dot tech class. So dot content wrap. Here we will change the flex direction to be column. Then in here align items to start. Then in here, let's justify content to the center. And finally, I'll add a gap between the heading and our content of 5 frame. Now we have technologies here, then here is a gap of 5 frame, then our logos. Then down here we can target the title, so dot tech title, and we'll add a font size of 2 rem. Did it change? Why do I think it didn't? Let's see 7. It didn't. This is H. So now it's changing. Let's change to 2 rem. I'll select the container that has our items. We will add a display of flex, and we will wrap our items. So flex wrap to be wrap, and we'll have a gap between them of 3 rem, and we will align the items to the center. Let's select the individual items. They are too big. Let's select the icon first, the image. So here I'll say dot tech, then item, then img, and we'll make it to have a height of 70px. We didn't add a class to the image, so we should have added. So what we should do, highlight this, select all of them. I'm just looking for something unique. Then we'll move to the side using the arrow. Then right here we'll say class. We add that class of tech item img. We save, and now this is what we have. Our logos are arranged nicely. Let's come back here. Let's select the card that has the image and the text, and whatever we should do is to arrange them in column. So we'll use display of flex here, and flex direction will be column. Then we should center everything, so we align the items to the center, then we justify the content to the center. Then we'll have a gap between them of about 0.7 rem. Then we can create a nice card like. So we'll add a background here, which will be RGB. Then these will be 23, 28, 35. It looks that way. It doesn't look so good, so we can make it better by having a height and a width here. So height, which will be bigger than the image, so I'll make it to be 170px. For the width, I'll make use of flex, since this is a flex container. So flex of 0, 0. Then we'll manipulate the width using the basis. So it will also be 170. Now it's that big. We can add a border radius. Of about 2 rem. Now look, those cards looks very cool. If you add different logos and text, they look even much better, just like here. So I'll leave that up to you. Okay, you can select the text, maybe decrease its size, but I think it's okay that way. We can animate them whenever we get to this section using GSAP. So let's jump to GSAP. We'll create a timeline just like this one. I'll copy and paste it here. This will be for the tech. So let's change the variable name to tech.tl. Then trigger will be .tech. We'll have start, top, bottom. Then toggle actions will be restart none, restart none. We'll have something like this. We will use it here. This will be tech.tl .from. The class will be GSAP tech item double underscore here. We can just pop them in. So we'll have opacity, then we can scale them. So you can have different animations for each section if you want. So we'll scale from 0.5. We will ease back. Then we will stagger, and we can add a duration for each of them of 0.5. In this case, we will not have a delay. Look now, the way they pop in looks good. Very nice. So if I come from here, then here, the scroll trigger is working. That's good. That's the tech section. Next, we'll cover contact section. So down here, this is the last section. Then we'll make our portfolio to be mobile responsive. We will have section. Then we'll have some classes. So let's add a class. We'll say contact and section, and also we'll have an ID of contact. In here we will wrap everything with our content wrap. So content hyphen wrap. We can have our contact body. Contact body. So now add a h2, which will say get in touch. Then you'll have a class for it. The title gradient will be there as usual. Title gradient. The other one will be so contact title. Then also we'll make it to be a GSAP contact item. I am missing a greater sign there, so go down here. We'll add a div. This will be having these details here, so I can copy and paste here. We'll have a class contact content. Then we'll also have GSAP contact item. And then this one, I can make it italic using the I tag here. So we have this. Awesome. The other thing that we have is an email. So I'll add a div. I'll copy paste the email like this. I'll add a class. Then finally, we also have a nav here, which I'm calling footer nav. It will be similar to this one. So I'll copy this one, copy. I'll go to the very bottom. Then we'll have that nav. We'll give it a class of footer nav for each of the navs. So footer nav items, footer nav item, footer nav item, footer nav item. Then these will be GSAP contact item, so we can change them to contact. Since we are already at the contact section, we can replace contact here with resume, just like that. We will target the contact and we'll change the background to be RGB, then 8822, which is dark blue. Also we'll change position for this one to be relative. We'll position the footer to be absolute, so let's on that. Then right here we will target the contact title. We'll change the font size to be 2 rem. We'll target the contact body, add a display of flex. We will add a gap between the items, so that is this and this and this. Let's have a gap of 3 rem and flex direction of, okay, not font display but flex direction of column, and we align the items to start. So now let's see what we have here. This one, we have space between them. Awesome. So let's select contact content. We'll set font family to be Poppins, and also we need to have a fallback of sans serif. Font weight to be regular, which is 400. Let's select the email, make it bold. Okay, we'll just change the size of 1.2 rem, make it more visible. The last thing is the footer nav. So we have a bit of styling. Most of them will be similar to our actual nav, so we can go to the very top. Let's copy this one. Also, I think the items will be similar. Most of this will be similar. Let's copy everything that has the nav. So I'll copy nav items hoover, nav items A, nav items here, and also this one. I will copy. Then I'll go to the very bottom. Let's select it here. We'll change the colors to footer nav. Here width will be 100, max with padding. This will be auto. Display flex, justify content space between. Then align items center. So I'll remove this two, and here I'll add a gap of 2 rem. Also position will be absolute. This will be absolute. Let's add a right here of 50%, and we will transform translate. Here we'll say 50%, and this will be translate X. Let's save. This will be footer nav. So it's this side. We need to add bottom to be 0, just like that. So it's now down here. For these items, we need to change all of these to footer hyphen. Let's copy this footer hyphen and paste it here, and paste it here, and save. Now look, we have the footer, which is cool. We can add some margin to the bottom. So margin to the bottom of about 4 so that it's not at the very bottom, it's a bit at the top there. We'll be adding a timeline and animation just like this. So let's copy that one and paste here. This one will be contact timeline. So let's edit both of these to contact. Here, trigger will be contact. Then this will be top, bottom, toggle actions, restart, none, restart none. Then GSAP contact item. Then here we can have similar to this one. So I'll copy that one, then paste here. Y30, opacity 0, delay of 0.5, then stagger. So I save, there we go, refresh. We should have this class at the nav, footer nav, so index. Then okay, we had this. The difference is the item here. I think I wasn't consistent with the classes, so sorry for this. Double underscore, save. Let's see. There we go. Now we have completed the desktop version of our site. So when I refresh, we have this section, it's animated. We have this section which scrolls sideways. We have this profile section. Okay, profile section. We have experience, work interest with cool effects, technologies, and get in touch. Awesome. Did this change in size? Okay, it's not font style. Font size. You probably saw this. There we go. So now the last thing that we will do is to make it to be mobile responsive. So now I want us to make the portfolio to be mobile responsive, and I would like this to also cover tablets. So I'll go to CSS, and at the very bottom I'll target a max width. So I'll say at media here, and I'll target a max width of 1000 px. So right here I'll say max width will be 1000 px, and in here is where we'll add our styles. So from 1000 px and below, the styles that we'll add are the one that will be applied to our portfolio. So this will cover our IntelliJ of devices, including tablet, because at this point I think it still looks good, which is for laptops and desktops. So yeah, I don't want to add a lot of breaking points, so I'll add only one. So right here I'll just target content wrap, and we'll add some changes. We'll add padding top and bottom to this of 4 rem, but we will reduce left and right to be 2 rem. Also here we'll decrease the gap to be 2 rem. Then I'll save. So let's go to hero section, then we'll go to at least below that, let's select iPhone 12 Pro, it's good enough, and see how it transforms. Okay, here I'll select the title gradient and we will make it to have a smaller font size, so font size of 1.5 rem. Did it change? Let's say 0.5. I think it's not changing. Okay, this is 1000. Okay, there we go. So 1.5 rem will do. Yeah, it's now smaller here. Awesome. Let's go to dot hero content, small title, which is this one here, and we will change the font size to be 1.2 rem, to be smaller than this one here. There we go. Then we will select the hero content wrap, and whatever we will do here is to change the flex direction to column. So flex direction will be column, and we'll justify content to the start. Also, we'll add a gap here of 4 em. Now look, it's starting to look better on mobile. Let's select the hero itself. We will remove padding to the top. Now let's select the nav logo, which is this name here, and we'll set the font size to be 0.85 rem. Then I'll select the nav items. I'll reduce the gap to be 1 rem so that it starts fitting nicely. So there we go. The other thing is to select the nav itself, and we reduce the padding around it to 2 rem, and also remove any margin on the top. So margin top to be 0. Save, and now this nav fits nicely. Let's select our hero illustration, and I'll select the image, and I want to give this image a max height of 400 px, so it will not be bigger than that. And right here, give it a width of 70%. Let's select the hero illustration, hero illustration here. Then here I'll display flex and justify content to the center. I'll flex here none, so this brings it back to the center. You can see that this is at the bottom here. So before the illustration, we can say dot hero content. Then here I can add a display of flex, and here I'll say flex of none and save. Now look, this content, we don't have any flex, therefore it reduced its height, so that looks good for the hero section. Let's go down to projects here. So I'll reduce the gap between the projects. This gap here, we'll set the gap to be 2 rem. Then I'll select the animation title, and I'll set a max width for this one to be 170 px. I'll select the project, like single project, which is a card, and here we will set the max width using the basis here to be 300 px, which will be slim. So it's slim, which is okay. We will decrease the border radius for this one to be 7 px. Yeah, it changed at the bottom here. For this, we need to select the image, and whatever we will do is to change the border radius 7 px, 7 px, then 0, 0. yeah, that is coming along. Then we can select the project content. So here I can say dot project underscore content, and here we will just decrease the padding to be 0.8 rem. So this we can say responsive project, so that we differentiate from the other one, responsive, since we are using the same file. So this now I think looks much better. So now we have this hero section, then you have projects which will fit nicely in iPhone 12 Pro. Awesome. So there is not much work to do when it comes to responsiveness. So here we'll start by selecting the about content area and change the flex direction. We change the flex direction to column. Now look, now it's here, this is here, looking good already. We'll select the profile. So right now, if we hit responsive here, you'll see as this expands, the profile expands, and I think it messes it up. So whatever I'll do is to set a max width, and I'll say let max width for the profile here to be 500 px, and let's text align center, text align center, save. Now even if we move very far, it will be a maximum of that size, which is cool. I'll select about hello, so about hello, which is this one here, and I'll decrease its font hyphen size to be 1.5 rem. Okay, this tags doesn't look good. Let me duplicate this and see what we had used earlier at about tags span. Let's add here display inline block, save. Look now, awesome. So I have added this at the very top, not at our responsive. Now this looks good, and I think we are done with about. Pretty nice. Education and experience. So this is our resume. Let's come here and add responsive resume. So we can start by selecting the content wrap. For this, we will change the flex direction to column. Now this will be here, this will be down here, and we can align items to start. I'll select the resume item, reduce padding, so dot resume, then item, this one here. We'll set padding to the left to be 40 px. It was about 70 or 7 something. So if I save, you will see it's here. So I'll select resume year before pseudo element, and here we will set left to be 45.5 px, which is negative, and save. Now we bring this back there. Awesome. Resume illustration img, and we'll set a max width for this one to be 400 px. Save. Now that looks good to me. Now let's go to this work interest and what I can offer. This already looks good. So these cards are the main ones that we will work on. So here, responsive services, I'll select dot service items container. I'll change padding to be 1 rem. So it's this container. I don't think it's changing. Let's see if we use this class. Service item container. I think it's this one. Okay, we didn't have an S. There we go. Cool. Now let's select the card dot service, change padding to be 15px. Let's select the icon here, dot service card icon. We will change also the margin to the right, so that we have spacing to be 15px as well, same as the padding here. So now we have that spacing. Awesome. I'll select service card content. I'll set padding to the left. Padding to the left to be 15px. I think this is not at the center, so we must have missed something there when we were working on our services. So here I can duplicate here, I can split. Then I think I'll look for the service card. Let's highlight it. We should see service card here, service card here. We added a display of flex, then justify content of center, and we align items to the center. So at service card icon, save. Then this is now at the center. Awesome, looks good. Now we are done with this. So here I'll say dot text container, and the first thing, I'll reduce the gap between them to be about 1.5 rem, and then I'll select an individual text item. I'll change the border radius for each to be 1 rem. Then I'll add flex. For flex, I'll decrease the width to be 87px, but also I would like to change the height to be 87px as well, so that it's a square. So they are smaller, but the image is big, so we should select the image down here. We'll give the image a height of about 35px will do on mobile. You can decrease the text size, but I won't. I'll just leave it that way. The last thing is the contact section. There is not much to be done here, only this nav. So here I'll select, we can comment responsive contact, and we will select the footer nav items, footer nav items right there, and here we will decrease the gap to 1 rem, and finally I'll select the footer nav itself here, dot footer hyphen nav. We will decrease padding to 2 rem. Also I'll change the font size to 0.85 rem. We'll change the gap to 1.5 rem. margin to the bottom to be 0. There we go. So this is our site. It's responsive, looks good on mobile. You can decrease the font size for this card for the description if you want, but generally I have shown you most of the stuff and this looks good. So on this size it looks this way. So yeah, that is how I created this site using HTML, CSS and added animation using GSAP. So the last thing that I would like to show you is how to deploy the portfolio, and we will do that using GitHub and vercel. So we will first push this portfolio to GitHub, then from GitHub we'll be able to deploy to vercel. If you have not used these technologies before, don't worry, I'll take you through step by step. So the first thing that you need to do is to create a GitHub account. So search for github.com, create an account, then you look for your profile. Right here you can click on profile and you can go to repositories, and then you'll create a new repository. So here you'll say new, and from here I'll just call this repository HTML, CSS, GSAP portfolio, and then down here description is optional. I'll keep this to be private, and then down here I'll create the repo, and here you'll see instructions on how to connect this repository with the local one. So first of all, you need to create a local repository using git init. So I can copy this command, then from here you can open a terminal. So here you will see terminal, new terminal, and it will open down here, and we can create a new repository using that git init. So I'll paste it here and press enter. So we have initialized a new git repository, and you can see here all the changes that we have made, 28 changes. Now you can follow these instructions. You need to perform git add, and then you will commit the changes and create a main branch. So let's do that. So to add all the files to the staging area, you'll just say git add, then you can use a star or a period. Then to check the files that are added, you can use git status command here, and you'll see all the files that are staged for commit. To commit the files, you just need to say git commit, then -m, then you'll enter a message here. I can say fast commit, hit enter. Now we just need to push this code to GitHub, but first of all we will create this main branch. So I'll copy this main branch command, git branch -m main, and I'll paste it here. And now from here we connect to our remote git repo, which is on GitHub. So I'll copy this command here, and I'll come back here, paste it here, hit enter. And now lastly we will just push this. So I'll come back and paste it here. It might take a minute also to push the code and images there. Now it's done. So if I come back here and refresh this page, you'll see that we have our files here. If I click one of them, maybe CSS, you'll see the code is here. So now that we have this code on GitHub at this repository, you can go to vercel. So just search for vercel, actually vercel.com, and click on this one. Now here you'll need to create an account if you don't have one. I think you can log in with GitHub. You need to connect your account with GitHub, and then here you'll add a new project, and you'll see we have this repo which we created on GitHub. So once you connect with GitHub, you'll see it here. So this is our new repository. You can see already vercel lists it here just now, and this is my previous one here, and you can search it here if you don't see it. So right here I'll just click on import. Now we have this project name. This name will be added at the URL, so I can say Chaoo Charles, then -demo -portfolio. Frameworks present, we didn't use any framework, but if you created yours with Angular, Vue, Next.js, you will select it there. Root directory, it's just the root, like the first directory. You don't need to edit. All you need to do here is to deploy. So I'll click on deploy, and it's deploying. We'll give it a minute also to complete, and there we go. We have just deployed our project on vercel. If I go to dashboard, I can see it here. So if I click on this link, you'll see this link here, Chaoo Charles demo portfolio vercel.app, and this now will take you to the live portfolio. So if you happen to visit this, as long as it's still online, you'll be able to see this exact portfolio online. Okay, and you can explore more on vercel, see what vercel can offer, but that will be it, how you can deploy your portfolio for free using vercel. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure you subscribe. It really takes a lot of time to create this kind of content, so yeah, support my channel by subscribing. You can also support by joining my Patreon. By that you get access to all the source codes. Check my other contents, and hopefully you will find them interesting and helpful, and I'll see you on the next one.